This film is a little scary, as this could actually become a reality in our lifetime. This is where you're introduced to Jesse Plemons' character, and is spouting out what he constitutes as a proper American, and do a very good job taking you sort of along the ride with the crew, and you're sort of there with an amazing shootout going through the White House. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Tom Marshall Media Podcast. Today we are going to have a look at a film that came out in April of this year, a film called Civil War. No, I'm afraid not. It's not the Captain America Civil War film, the Marvel film, something completely different. Sorry guys, sorry. But nonetheless, really good film. It's called Civil War, like I said, and let's get into it. Okay, so the film is directed by Alex Garland, a really good writer, but he also directs as well. Films he's directed include Ex Machina and also Annihilation. So good couple of films there. But like I said, he was also a writer and a very early sort of collaborator with Danny Boyle. Films such as The Beach, he wrote 28 Days Later, and also a personal favourite of mine, Sunshine, a very sort of low budget, small, independent science fiction film called Sunshine, starring Cillian Murphy. Yeah, very good resume already. Yeah, it also stars Kirsten Dunst, Kelly Spini, Wagner Moura, and Stephen McKinley Henderson. There are a few other surprise cast members in there also. Jesse Plemons, who plays a rather sketchy soldier that we'll talk about later on, and also Nick Offerman, who plays the President of the United States. And yes, very good cast, very good choice. And yeah, let's get into it. Here we go. So this is from one of our good friends, A24 Productions, who I've mentioned in an earlier video that I did, one of my first videos, The Substance. They've done some really good work of late, and they basically were responsible and produced this film. The budget of the film had $50 million, bad, sort of that mid-range, and the box office worldwide, it made over $126 million. So overall, the box office has been pretty decent to this film, and yeah, it's done really well. So well done. The film is about a group of journalists and reporters traveling across America in an alternate reality where America is going through a second civil war. It's a race against time to reach the White House to meet the president before the rebels get there and kill him. So, yeah, that's a pretty interesting premise for a story. The opening scene of the film is a protest over water resources, and in the town square, it starts off peaceful but drastically takes a turn when mob mentality sort of takes over and it escalates more violently. A press car pulls up, and out comes Lee, Kirsten Dunst's character, recording and reporting on the events taking place around her with her friend Joel, Wagner Moura's character, and they're just basically documenting the events that are going on. Chaos ensues around them as riot police come in to break up and hitting people, beating on the protesters. This is where we're introduced to Jessie, Callie Speeney's character, who is a young photographer herself documenting the event. Lee notices her getting into the mix and getting stuck in up close and personal with the rioters and everything that's going on around her, almost sort of bringing back memories of who Lee sort of used to be. She sort of remembers how she used to be herself. All is going well until Jessie gets walloped over the head by a police baton, and Lee basically intervenes and pulls her out of this chaos mob that has gathered all around her. They hide behind the press car, and Lee basically checks her out, making sure that she's alright and everything is all good. All is fine until you see someone holding an American flag and run straight into the crowd of rioters and set off a bomb, killing everyone around them. After the riots, they head back to the hotel, and Lee, Joel, and Sammy, Henderson's character, who is from a rival news outlet, who they've all just become friends, sit in the bar and drinking and thinking about the experience that they've just had and planning their next move and what they want to do. This is where they make the decision to finally go to Washington, D.C. and travel the length of the country by car, which is something like over 1,000 miles or whatever it is. I don't know how far it is, but it's a long, long way. This is also where Jessie tracks down Lee and thanks her for basically helping her out in a sticky situation earlier in the day, and basically gushes over Lee and says that she was basically her inspiration to becoming a war photographer just like her. And they also actually make a reference to Lee Miller, who our protagonist Kirsten Dunst's character Lee is actually named after, and coincidentally Kate Winslet ended up playing her in a movie that came out later on this year as well. So I wonder if they sort of knew about that at the time. But basically, they make a reference to Lee Miller, who was a photographer, war photographer in World War II for Vogue magazine, and so yeah, so she says like, "Oh, this you were my inspiration to become a photographer." So the next day, they basically get ready, sort everything out for their journey, get all their supplies and so on that they need, pack the car in, and then you see Lee exiting the hotel, and that's where Lee sees Jessie in the back seat of the car. She managed to scam her way in to the group and join them for the trip, much to Lee's annoyance. Eventually, sort of Lee turns around and goes with it, and they set off for their long trip to America, and then all chaos ensues. This film is a little scary, as this could actually become a reality in our lifetime. One wrong move in America or across the world, this could mean the difference between peace and World War III, which at this rate could be closer than we think. Which, you know, this movie is quite timely in that respect. So a lot of conversations that they're talking about in the film are happening in real time in our reality. So it really does sort of make you think and question about that sort of stuff. Um, I really enjoyed the dysfunctional sort of family dynamic they have among the four protagonists in the film. I believe Lee says at one point along the lines of like, the back seat of my car on one side is a creche and on the other an old person's home, um, which tells you everything you need to really know about Lee's character. All she wants to do is literally just report and get to her destination without any hassle or any one else to sort of look after or weigh her down in any sort of way. Just how her character is. But as time goes on, she sort of really appreciates the people she's with, which shows a lot of character growth, which is good. This is essentially a road trip movie. Brought back memories for myself of when I was younger, travelling up to my grandparents' house from the south of England up to the north of England, a place called Alnwick, which is like a 7-8 hour drive. Just remember being stuck in the back seat of my parents' car and driving up, and it kind of brought memories back of that, of this long, sort of arduous trip. There is a rather sketchy scene where the group turn off the main road and in search of Jessie, who goes missing. They discover her and another guy who are being basically held at gunpoint by someone who you might consider to be sort of very, very, very far right wing American, sort of fanatic dressed in military clothing, combats and camo, as well as wearing these horrendous orange glasses. Just think to yourself, how on earth does this fit? But it does. And this is where you're introduced to Jesse Plemons' character, and is spouting out what he constitutes as a proper American. And his demeanor and his words are pretty shocking, frightening at times. It makes you think that someone like that in America or around the world or wherever, someone like that actually does exist and believes and thinks in that way. And you just think to yourself, okay, I'm going to stay clear of that guy. But they're stuck in this rather sketchy situation. It's a simple scene, but the acting among the four protagonists really sort of sell this scene really, really well, including Jesse Plemons, who's spouting all this rubbish. And you really sort of feel the fear among everybody who's been held at gunpoint. It's really sort of eerie and, yeah, very, very frightening. There's a battle that takes place through the streets of Washington, D.C., which really visceral, and they do a very good job taking you sort of along the ride with the crew, and you're sort of there with them. You really feel like you're a part of the group, sort of traversing your way through the streets with the soldiers and experiencing sort of the action that's going on around you, which I thought was sort of really well done. And there's also an amazing shootout going through the White House towards the end of the film, as you follow the protagonists and the soldiers navigating their way through almost through all the parts of the White House that you know, ending up finally at the Oval Office. It's an incredible scene because there's no sort of action music going on in the background. Nothing dramatic whatsoever going on, and there's no sort of loud explosions. There's nothing. It's just a simple scene of them fighting their way through the White House. Not all action sequences required the big dramatic stuff to put you in that situation. I think that was a really sort of clever story tool that they used, and just do the whole scene without a score at all. Just the sounds of the gunfire, the soldiers screaming orders, you know, even down to the, you can hear the cameras going off as well, and the wind of the film being reloaded, and it's those little sound effects that you hear that really enhance this scene, which is really good when you see it. It was even better when you're at the cinema, when you had the sound system blaring that at you all at once, and it was like very, like I say, visceral, like you felt you were actually there in the scene with them. Every sort of crackle and bang and gunshots really sort of adds to the effect, like I say, and puts you in the action. all in all, I think this film is really good and gives you a sense of what could possibly happen and makes you think about the current state of politics while also being a very sort of entertaining family dynamic group that you follow along the way. And that's what makes a good film, a film that is both entertaining and thought provoking, you know, is a winner in my opinion. So well done to Alex Garland and all the people that were sort of responsible for this film. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself, but again, like I always say, I'm not a filmmaker at all. I have no skin in this game. Just my opinion of the film. Let me know what you think in the comments if you've seen this film, or even through this video discovering it for the first time. That is the aim, is to sort of give you different films that you're not really sort of known about, or missed, that you missed earlier in the year. Because it's always good to yes, support the big films that are out at the moment, such as like Wicked and Moana 2. They're the really top big films, but these smaller films do just as well and need your support just as much as the bigger films that are out there as well. So if you want something a little bit different, a little more sort of intimate, this is definitely a really good film and definitely worth your time. As per usual, thank you very much for watching, and thank you for liking and subscribing to this channel, and I shall see you in the next video. Peace.